Well, our task today is our last Excel project. It's not our last spreadsheet project because we're going to do a little practice in the cloud. But today we're going to work on, starting from scratch, a larger worksheet, and we're going to learn a few little extras about Excel, something you may have seen already, about data series. We're going to learn about functions that reference a cell that doesn't move. So that's what we call absolute cell referencing. And there's one more function. Let's see, the hardest thing so far, you've learned conditional formatting, which is a little bit complicated. We're also going to learn about the if function and how that can be very useful. And one very powerful thing that can be done with Excel is what they call goal seeking. Say we're trying to reach a particular income at the end of the year, we can adjust conditions and in our assumptions to seek a particular and figure out what it would take to achieve a particular goal, like a particular profit that our stockholders are demanding or we need in order to stay in business. So let's get started on a new project, and then we'll get to those details. And let's see, we're going to produce something that's going to look like this. I'll just let you take a peek in the book here. Here's what we're going to produce: a budget projection for a company, a department store. And they have projections for how much they're going to sell each month, starting with January out to June. So they're going to do a 6-month projection. We're going to do a similar cell, a title cell. We're not going to be doing a merging and centering though, because we're going to put a little date up here in the right corner. We're going to have similar formatting at the end. We're going to be calculating our revenue, that's our income in a budget for a company. And in our expenses, we have multiple types of expenses, and it might be, I think we'll probably do a pie chart as well for that. But we're going to learn about little charts called sparkline charts for a little eye candy in your document. We're going to be totaling up our expenses, and we're going to be calculating our operating income. So it looks like a pretty basic budget, but we're also going to be creating an assumptions table. We're going to do a chart as well. We're going to be creating an assumptions table that's going to be down below here that our projected expenses are going to be based on. And that's why we're going to be using some absolute referencing. So let's get started, and we'll start by entering our row and column headings, and then we'll start filling in our projected revenue, and everything else in our worksheet is going to be based on revenue and assumptions. So we're going to do the March's formulas, and then we'll handle over for the rest of the year. So let's see how that's done. Start Excel. Have it on my taskbar and a blank workbook. And we'll put in our title, and we might as put our name in there too, just to show that it's our work. We're going to put here in cell A1 the name of our work, and this is I'll fill out his complete name: John Smart, Manola Department Store, Stores Inc., and 6-month financial projections. So we're filling that out, and now let's start entering some. Oh, we're gonna choose a theme as well. They like the slice theme. Let's go find our slice theme. Remember how we apply a theme? This will be on. I think this is going to be on the final. You'll have 2 main projects on the final: an Excel and an Access project, and then 2 other smaller projects, Word and PowerPoint. But you may be asked, apply a theme to your spreadsheet. Remember, you can apply the theme anytime, but it's good to apply it at the start. So let's go to Page Layout, and why isn't my themes available? This is sometimes a confusing thing because Excel sees me in the middle of editing this cell. I can't apply a theme until I'm done editing this cell. Either hitting enter or escape or arrow key will finish the editing of that cell, and now the themes is available. And we're looking for the slice theme. Where is the slice theme? Let's see. There's slate. I don't see a slice theme. Did I miss it? I don't think it has a search capability on the theme. There it is. There's the slice theme. If I couldn't find a theme, I suppose I could browse and there might be other themes available, but I'll go with that one. I don't see a big difference. The main way I see a difference in the theme is my color selected, what might be different. When I go to choose the color of something here, when I choose the color of something here, let's see what colors are available. My color table has probably changed from what it was before. A little brighter colors in the slice theme. But we won't worry about that until we come back and adjust. Now we're going to put in some column headings. So we're going to start here in cell B3. These are going to become our column headings. And like I did before, I want my chart to be separated from my title a little bit. I'm going to adjust the height of row 3. And we'll be entering now the days of, or the months. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit here. And it's going to go out through June. So I type in January. And I know that I can fill handle out to June. But before I do the fill handle, I want to rotate the text of this column just to make it look a little fancier. And I can come up here and rotate it counterclockwise exactly 45 degrees if I want exactly 45 degrees. And look at that, it cuts off January. Let's see what happens if I double click on the border of the row here. It will adjust that row to fit nicely. But someone comes along and tells us, you know, that's not quite the right rotation. Give me a rotation a little more closer to vertical. And I think, well, this gives me only 45 degrees. How about, could I give an exact number of degrees? How would I do that? Well, let's see if I come here. That takes me to here. And look at here, I can adjust my rotation exactly to a certain number of degrees here. So I'm going to go do that. I'm going to adjust the degrees of rotation of the cell, and let's adjust it. Let's see, in the book they would like us to adjust it to 75 degrees. Let's see, if I grab this little red mark, I can get close to 75. Let's see if I can get exactly 75. There, I can get to 75. Or I could just come here and type 75. Now, let's see what happens if I hit enter. Look at the rotation now. So I got there by going to this rotation, format cell alignment. Another way to get there would be to choose this little box here, the formula, the alignment settings. That will also take me to the detailed formatting dialog. And there's my rotation of 75 degrees. And here's, I have all those others, other settings available to me. So remember, if you don't see what you want to do in these exact little icons, go to the Format Cells dialog and you have all those choices available to you. And remember, whatever I choose here applies to whatever cells are selected. So even if I hadn't typed in February, March, April, May, June, I could have applied the rotation to these. But watch what happens now. Since I've applied rotation and I've started with a month that is a beginning of a series, as I fill handle over, it not only automatically fills in March, April, May, June, it also remembers the formatting because I'm doing a fill handle. So one thing to remember about fill handle is it not only copies the data or does a series of the data, it also copies the format of the things you're copying from. So fill handle, very powerful. It copies format and either the data or if it's a series, we'll continue the series. Now there is one more cell I want to enter at the end of the series. I'm also going to put the, is it going to be total? We're going to put a total here. Let's see what happens if I type total here. I type total and hit enter. Look at that. Even though I didn't fill handle alt to total, it guesses that I must want the total to be rotated as well. So Ecxel is applying that formatting just based on it thinking that, well, since you rotated these, I guess I'll rotate that as well. And we're also going to put a chart. So let's go to cell I3, and we're gonna insert a chart here later. So chart, I hit enter, and it rotates that as well. So these are going to be my column headings, and I want them separated a little more from my title. So I'm going to enlarge the height of row 3 a little bit more. Manually stretch it out. Remember, if I double click on the border, it will fit it exactly, and that's not a good fit. Double click fits it like that. I want to pull it down just a bit more, just for a better separation from my title. And now we're ready to add, I think we're going to do row headings next. And while you're working on getting this ready, I'm just going to show you some things having to do with that autofill. Let's watch what I can do. If I put in, like in this cell, if I do 4 o'clock, 4:00, if I fill handle that over, it'll automatically increment the hour. But watch it, if I just put the number 4 in fill handle, it doesn't increment the number because it doesn't see that as a part of a series. But if I do this, if I do A4 and now fill handle that over, it will increment that series. And other series, such as the year, if it looks like a year, like 2024, it recognizes that as the year I'm on. Let's see what happens when I fill handle that over. Oh, that doesn't increase. But how about if I do this, 2024, and then the next cell, 2025. Now if I select both cells and fill handle over, it recognizes, oh, I must want to go up by 1 each time. Days of the week will do that as well. Even abbreviations of days of the week. If I fill handle MUN, it'll increment the days of the week. So lots of, no, we'll do one more just for fun. It will also increment automatically if I do 4th and then fill handle over. It recognizes that. Let's try 1st and see if it knows how to properly increment those. Look at that. It knows how to do from 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and then th following. So lots of automatic fill handles for you. Can be handy if you're doing a lot of data like that. And since I'm not going to use that on my chart, I'm going to select and hit delete key and clear them out. Just a little practice. Okay, so now we've got our month headings, total and chart. Let's see what else we would like to do here. I'm thinking we're going to get going on our column heading. And we're going to come down here to increase the column width of that first column because we're going to be putting long row titles in here. So let's increase the width of column A by grabbing the border and sliding it over. And let's see what we have here. We're going to put in revenue for our heading of the first section, cost of goods sold, and then we're going to have a gross margin calculated. Because cost of goods sold affects our revenue, we would like to indent this cell a tiny bit. This is handy to make your spreadsheet look professional. I'm going to increase the indent of that little cell, and it spaces it in just a little bit. I can increase the indent multiple times or decrease the indent to there. And now I have my top section. Now, a lot of people if they want another row, and this is a little bit annoying, since I have a cell that's wide here, when I try to slide down, it wants to slide past that top row because it has a large height to it. I'm going to leave a blank row here for spacing, even though I could have just have increased the height of the next row. Expenses will be in row 8. That's going to be the title of the next section. And now we're going to enter values of our projected expenses of multiple categories. It's going to be bonus, salary, site rental, marketing, miscellaneous, the dangerous category, and I think that's the last one, and then we're going to have total expenses. And just like we did with the cost of goods sold, let's indent all the sub-items of expenses by just a tiny bit by clicking the increase indent. So those are all clear to anyone reading this, that these are all part of my expenses section. And then we're going to skip another row just for spacing, and we're going to have a operating income calculated for each month. My row heading. And I don't want that one indented, so I'm going to decrease the indent on that one. And I'll zoom out a little bit so you should see what we have here now. We're going to have our totals across the top, and then underneath that, revenue separated by our expenses, spaced row, and operating income. And now we're going to create a little table down below here. This is going to become our assumptions for our projections. We're going to call this our what-if assumptions. And our what-if assumptions are the same listed items up here. We're going to have assumptions about our bonus, salary, site rental, marketing, and miscellaneous. So if our assumption is going to have the same list, let's go ahead and copy paste that section of cells, Control-C copy, and paste assumptions about those categories with a Control-V. So I have assumptions with the same list of items. Those are our what-if assumptions. Okay, so I basically copied and pasted those cells. Hitting the escape key will turn off the dotted lines around that, indicating that was in our clipboard. So we're making progress now. And now we're going to insert a cell right above salary in our assumptions. I can insert a row or insert a cell. Let's right click, insert, and I'm going to insert a row. The insert automatically inserts a row above, and I'm going to do the default, insert shift cells down. I could insert a cell, or I could insert a row right here, and that will do the same thing. Insert row doesn't ask you a question, it just automatically inserts a new row above the one I'm in. But if I'm on a single cell, I can insert a cell, and it gives me the choice, what do I want to do with the cells around me? And I can choose whether or not I shift the row or insert a column, because it does know, are you inserting a row or column when I come to just one cell? Now, right beneath the bonus, after I've done the insert of a cell, I would like to have another assumption called sales revenue for bonus. I'll zoom in a little here for you. This is going to be the assumption of how much sales do I have to have achieved in order to hand out the bonus here in the expenses category. So there's going to be a condition on whether or not I get a bonus. It's the required revenue for bonus. And we'll see how that works as we start putting in formulas. And let's see, what else are we doing here? I think we have our titles. Yeah, we've got our titles. And before we do anything more, let's go ahead and save this by hitting Control S. Since this is my first save, I have to now give it a location and a name. I'm saving it to my homework, and I'm going to call it EX3 JSmart. It's the EX3 project and the username JSmart. Put your username in there in the name of your file. So EX3 and then your username. So now it's saved, and I can now continue editing the spreadsheet. Let's see what we have so far. If I zoom way out, I have title, column headings, and row headings. And these are going to be a special table of assumptions. And here's my assumptions. Now I think we're about ready to do some formulas. In our assumptions, they're not formulas, they are basic numbers. The bonus, I missed one. There is a margin. I missed a row. We are also adding a margin row. Let's go right click, insert, shift cells down, and we put in another entry here, margin. I forgot about margin. And look at that. It doesn't have the indentation because it inherits the indentation of the row above it. So let's indent that margin. And now let's put in our margin assumptions for our whole projections here. We're projecting a margin of 81.25%. I enter the percent symbol because remember that mathematically turns that into 0.1825. The bonus is going to be $5,000. I'll come back later and put this in comma format. Sales revenue expected for bonus is $1 million. I can put in the commas myself if I like. Excel will automatically put it in comma format, but I'm just going to type in the numbers: 1,250,000, 3 more zeros. If I want to be sure I got it right, I could right now put it in comma format just to make sure I have it right. See how comma format does indent the number slightly different. Salary is going to be 20%. And you're going to wonder, what? 20% of what? It's going to be 20% of my revenue. Site rental is going to be 10%. Marketing, we're projecting 3.5%. And miscellaneous, we're projecting to be 5%. Now let's make this assumption table look nice. On all the percentages, let's set them to be 2 decimal, just like the 81.25. And let's set all our numbers to be comma format. And now, since this is going to be our assumptions table, let's go ahead and shade our assumptions table just to make it clear to anyone looking at our chart. These are our assumptions. Let's give it a shading. How about a mild blue color? So these are our assumptions, and let's bold the title, Control B. These are our assumptions. Gonna Control S, save my worksheet now. All right. Now it's time to enter projected revenue, and then we'll do our calculations. Our revenue projected, comes from some analyst, has given us the projected revenue, perhaps based on last year's revenue. Our projected revenue is going to be, for January, 1,470, not 2,470, 1,470,500. What? Let's put that in comma format, not date format. There we go. For some reason I thought that was in date format. And let's enter February. That's going to be 1186600. And again, it thinks that's in time format. It's because I had put a time there before. Let's tell Excel that these numbers are all comma format before I start entering numbers and having them show up strangely. March is going to be, get this right. Uh-oh, I missed a number. This number goes here. I'm going to click and drag that number. That's the March number. February is 1405000. And let's put it in comma format just to make it clear I got it right. There we go. April is 1498000. May is 1102900. And for June, we're projecting a revenue of 1145300. And I like this feature that as I enter numbers, it is actually automatically fitting my column to the number rather than giving me the ugly pound signs. Double click on a border and I get my number back. So whenever you see pound signs, don't panic. Just enlarge or auto fit your column. And now I have my projected revenues. These are very important to get just right because if we have these numbers wrong, our calculations for projected revenues for each month and each category is going to be wrong. So double check all the numbers there, and then we'll come back and figure out our cost of goods sold. Yeah, if I just go down one cell, go to there, I'm okay, because this is a wide cell. Everything jumps because it has to jump past this high tall cell. All right, now it's time to enter a date and time. Before we enter cells, they would like to enter a date and time up here in cell H1. Let's go over to H1. We want today's date to appear here. And let's see here. Do we want it to be the date that today's date or a particular date? Let's see how. We want to put in a formula here. And the formula is a special formula. Remember how we start out formulas? I'll zoom in here, zoom in on it here. We start out formulas with an equal symbol. Equal means Excel figure this out for me. And there is a formula called now with empty parentheses, and if I notice as I type it, it shows me returns the current date and time formatted as a date and time. Because it's a function, I have to give it parentheses. Even though it doesn't take any parameters, I give it empty parentheses, empty left and right parentheses. Watch what happens when I hit enter. It actually calculates today's date and today's exact time. If I hit the F9 key, it will refresh my time in all the calculated cells. So if this ever hits the next minute, a refresh will show 8:50. But I don't want to show the time. I only want to show the date. How can I fix that? Well, remember here in the formatting of that cell, I can come up here and format it as a short date. And now I don't worry about I don't see the time. If I want to see all the details I have, all the ways of showing a date, I can go to my number format dialog and notice all the types of dates that I could show as the actual day of the week, long year with dashes, just the day and the month. They would like to format it as just the short date there. So instead of the 4-digit year, they only want to show the 2-digit year. And I click OK. Now the now function is showing me the date in 2-digit year format. If I ever open up this function, this Excel spreadsheet in the future, it will show the date when they opened it, because the now function will run again when they open it in the future. So the now function means the date showing here will be the date whenever somebody opens that spreadsheet. The nice thing about this is that if I ever go to print it, or if someone else goes to print this Excel spreadsheet, it'll show the date that they actually had it opened and printed it. Sometimes you want that. You want it to show the date that someone had opened it. Other times you may want this to be a fixed date and show the date that you actually did the actual spreadsheet. So the now formula will rerun anytime I open the spreadsheet. Okay, now I'm ready to enter some more numbers, some more formulas. And we're going to learn about some important addressing schemes here. We're going to learn about absolute referencing. So let's take a look now here for our formula for January of our projected cost of goods sold. So the formula I want to go here, click on this formula right here. Cost of goods sold is going to be a formula. Here is the formula. It is equal to, and I'm going to point and click to my revenue, B4. That's going to be multiplied by, in parentheses, 1 minus my margin. And where is my margin projected? It's down here in B19. So I click on B19, and there I have my formula. 1 minus the value in B19. That's the proper calculation for January's cost of goods sold. Revenue times 1 minus my margin. Now, this would all be perfectly fine if I weren't planning on calculating my margin for the rest of the months. So B19 is where I'm getting my margin from. Watch what happens if I fill handle this. Let's fill handle this just to February, and let's see what I get. Wait a minute, how can my cost of goods sold be exactly equal to my revenue? Well, remember when we copy formulas, it adjusts the position of the references. It references now C19 instead of B19 when I copy my formula. Well, that's a problem because the margin is in B19. So I have to come back here and change that to a B. And now I realize I'm going to have to do that as I copy my formula out. And this is why they invented a thing called absolute referencing. Let's go back to January. And that formula, we look at that and we see, well, B19 needs to stay B19 as I copy my formula over to the other months. Here's what we need to do. We need to keep that B from changing. This is what we call absolute referencing. And the way to do that is to put a $sign to the left of that B. Think of that as sticky glue. That's a little letter S with a line in it. Think of that as sticky glue making the B stick and stay as a B. I do want my revenue reference to change to the revenue for February, but I don't want to move the B to become a C as I copy to the right. So I've changed it to B19, and now watch what happens when I copy the formula to February. See how that B didn't change. I did adjust my reference to my revenue. Now, in the book or in Excel, you can hit the F4 key and it will toggle through all the possible locations of the sticky $sign. Have both B and the 19 never change, have only the 19 not change, have only the B not change, or let them both change and use relative addressing. We want at least the B not to change. It doesn't matter that the 19 doesn't change because I'm not copying my formula down in a row. So F4 will change that toggle through all the options for the absolute referencing. So really, you don't need any absolute referencing except for the B. So I'm going to put the sticky on the B. Absolute referencing for that formula. Now, I can now copy this formula all out to all the rest of the months. And I'll see their cost of goods sold calculated correctly. Notice the B doesn't get changed as I copy my formula. Now the whole thing about absolute referencing, we don't care about it so much unless we're planning to copy our formula. And we don't want something to change when we're copying it. If we're only doing a one-time formula, you don't need to worry about absolute referencing, which is why most people don't know about absolute referencing, because you're usually only doing one formula and you never need to copy it. Now, gross margin is a simple formula. It is equal to my revenue. So type equal revenue at B4 minus my cost of goods sold. Now that one does need to move as I copy formulas to the next months, so I don't put absolute referencing there. And I can copy my formula out to June. So the revenue is a fairly simple formula. I'll zoom out just a bit more so you can see all the numbers. This will become important though as I calculate all of these, because guess what? All of these are going to depend on assumptions, so I'm going to need to use absolute referencing in every one of these formulas. Checking to make sure I got my numbers right. Yep. Now comes a very important new concept here. Let's think about our bonus. You don't get a bonus automatically. You only get a bonus if you've met a particular condition. What is the condition of our bonus? Well, let's put a little note on this cell. Did you know you can add notes to cells? I'm going to right click on this cell and insert a comment to this cell. And my comment is going to be, I get a bonus only if revenue has exceeded the revenue for bonus assumption. And where is that assumption? That's down there in cell B21. I'll put in parentheses. And I'm going to remind us that that is an absolute reference to cell B21. So adding a little note here, reminding me I only get the revenue. And what is my bonus? Well, the bonus is there in B20. So the bonus, I'm going to put next to that in parentheses, that's down there in B20. So the bonus is in B20. I have to exceed the revenue for bonus. That's down in B21. I hit enter and I'm done with that note, or I click off the note and it just appears there as a little red thing in the corner, and when I hover over that cell, that note will pop up. So how do I write a formula that I get what's in B20 only if my revenue up there in, well, what is revenue? That's up there in B4. So let's edit my note. Let's see, right click, edit comment, and the revenue is in B4. So the revenue is in B4, and for each month that revenue will change, so I'm not going to put stickies on that because for the next month it will change to C4. So knowing this is what I need to put in here, and because this is a common thing to do, especially on government forms, like if your revenue is above a certain amount, then you do pay that certain percent of taxes. Oh, but if your revenue is, or if your income is below a certain amount, you pay a different percentage of taxes. Well, that's a common thing in Excel, and because of that, they have invented a thing called the if formula. And like I showed in the notes on this our topic today, here's what the if formula looks like. And I'll just put the equal in front of that, reminding us that it's a formula that Excel calculates for us. If formula is written this way: equal if a condition, something that can turn out to be true or false, and if that condition is true, what value goes in that cell will become this. Otherwise, the value in that cell will become that. So, thinking about this as a formula that Excel has for us, let's see what we would write for this particular cell. So I type equal if. Now, the logical test, the little notes pop up there. The logical test is, well, let's see here. What did the note say? If my revenue has exceeded my sales revenue for bonus. And let's see, is it met or exceeded? I would assume it's met or exceeded. So what is my logical test? Well, the revenue there in B4 is greater than or equal. This is how we do the greater than or equal. The greater than and equal sign right next to each other. B4 greater than or equal to this cell, B21. But remember, that cell can't change as I copy to the right, so I'm going to hit the F4 to make sure that the absolute reference to B21. So that's my logical test. My revenue must be greater than sales revenue for bonus, and that's the condition for me to get my bonus. So now I hit comma, and now the question is, what is my bonus? What's the value if true? Well, what is my bonus if that condition comes out to be true? Well, the bonus is listed here, down in B20. So I click on B20, and I hit F4 to turn that into an absolute reference. I get the bonus that's listed down here in my assumptions table, and as I copy to the other months, I still reference that exact position in the assumptions table. Comma, what do I get if value of false? Well, I get 0, so I have to put a 0 here. That's the value of my bonus if I have not met the revenue for bonus. And I end my if function with a parenthesis. So let's see what we're saying here is Excel gives me a formula, or I can enter a formula for Excel. Excel will give me the result based on a condition. If my B4, my revenue for this month, has met or exceeded the revenue for bonus down in the assumptions table with absolute referencing, comma, then I get this as my bonus listed down here in cell B20, absolute reference, comma, otherwise I get 0. And I hit enter, and let's find out, did I get a bonus for January? Well, let's see. The revenue for bonus was $1,250,000. I should be getting my bonus because that did exceed that. Let's see if I hit enter. Do I get a bonus? Yes, I do. And let's see. I should get a bonus for every month except, let's see, this one and this one did not meet the revenue for bonus. Let's see if that comes out to be correct. I will copy that formula out using my fill handle, and let's see if my if formula is working. Look at that. Yes, I did get the bonus for every month except May and March because their sales revenue did not exceed $1,250,000. So the if formula is working. Now this is a new concept, so let's go over that carefully. Excel gives me a formula that isn't doing math, it's doing a logical test. I get it. First, the logical test. My revenue, does it exceed the revenue for bonus? That's the logical test. The value of true, well, if that logical test turns out to be true, I do get the bonus. And where is the bonus? Well, I could have typed in a number but I want to refer to my assumptions table because as I adjust my assumptions, I want to see what would be the effect of my end income if I decided to decrease or increase the bonus. Because I'm doing it this way, I can adjust my assumptions and I will see the result in all my formulas automatically. So the if formula is a very convenient way when I have formulas that depend on some condition, which is very common in government forms. Now let's finish off our assumptions and we'll get the first half of this done in the last few minutes. Salary is equal to my revenue times the salary percentage I'm projecting, and guess what? That's going to be an absolute reference, so I hit F4. Site rental, same thing. It's equal to revenue, B4, times the projected percent revenue for site, or percent expenses for site rental, absolute reference, F4. Now you could always manually type in the dollar, but F4 makes it convenient. Marketing is equal to revenue times marketing projected, F4 to put in the stickies. And miscellaneous, you can guess, it's equal to revenue, B4, no stickies because it's going to change for the next month, and projected percent miscellaneous expenses, hitting the F4 to make that absolute reference. And total expenses, can you guess? It's going to be, let's use the auto sum. Let it do the auto sum for us. Automatically calculates the projected total expenses. I'm going to hit the control tilde just so you can see what formulas now you should have in those cells. I'm going to hit the control S to save my Excel spreadsheet, and we will be done for today. So check your formulas, and now that we have the proper reference with stickies to our assumptions table. What's that? Oh, control tilde, control upper left, little tick mark or little squiggle, toggles between showing your formulas and showing the results of the formulas. It's a cool way to verify that you have the correct formula. Control, and then it toggles back and forth to see formulas or the results. Another way to see the formula is just to click on the cell once. You see it there in the formula bar, double click, and you show the formula in the cell. But always be careful if you're editing a formula and you don't want to change. Hit escape before clicking anywhere else, because you can accidentally use the point and click feature and it'll mess up your formula. So save that, and that will be it for today. We'll be doing part 2, finishing up calculations. Now that we have this correct, it's going to be very easy to handle everything over to the right. This is all going to be easy peasy copy my existing formulas. So we'll get all this, we'll make sure this is exactly right. Then when we copy over, the absolute referencing will follow us. Okay, have a wonderful day. Save that in a good spot, your cloud drive, your Google Drive, your local documents folder. And I will be uploading this video